What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content you watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the July 22nd, 2024 edition of Raw Talk. Sam Roberts, Megan Moran in the studio, opening up the episode, recapping the opening segment with Damian Priest and Gunther brawling. A really good segment to start the show, too. It was short, it was quick, painless, great brawl. The crowd was into it. They were booing Gunther behind Priest. Really liked that segment. Back in the studio, they preview Priest versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam next weekend. They replay the Rollins-McIntyre-Punk segment that officially made the match official, I guess, for SummerSlam between McIntyre and Punk, and Rollins being named the special guest referee. They preview the match with Punk versus McIntyre. Sam Roberts says this goes all the way back even before January, because Megan says, it goes back to January when Drew prayed for Punk's downfall and got him injured in the Royal Rumble match. No, it goes even beyond that, Roberts remembers. And not even, I thought he might bring up something from like a decade ago. And they have no history on screen. And Drew does say this goes back a lot further than January, obviously. But on screen, he acknowledges he acknowledges his reaction when Punk came back at Survivor Series in Chicago last year. Drew was pissed, Rollins was pissed. Both guys were not happy that Punk was back in the company. And that was part of where the dissension and turmoil kind of stemmed from as well, dating back to late last year, leading to where we are now. They replay the Final Testament, carrying Cross and AOP beating Xavier Woods, Otis, and Tozawa in a six-man tag team match. We hear from the Final Testament afterward backstage. It really was only Cross talking, though. He says that Woods brought new victims into the equation, and they don't mind. They're totally fine with knocking down new victims being brought into the equation, but he does question what Xavier will do next. They're going to have a match next week, one-on-one on Raw. So they hype that match. Sam Roberts says why Woods would continue to make the same mistakes and to think the outcome would be any different. But that being said, though, the last time they did go one-on-one, Xavier beat Cross. I think Cross beat Kofi, but he did lose to Xavier Woods. So the outcome would probably be the same. I think we're totally forgetting about the fact that Cross has already lost to Woods. So Woods already has one over him. But anyway, they replay Bo Dallas and the Wyatt Six attacking Chad Gable on Raw. Sam Roberts wonders what the Wyatt Six will look like in the ring eventually, which is a question we're all wondering. So far, so good. I've been enjoying the storyline, the angle, the group, whatever. But what will it look like when they eventually get in the ring? I thought that might be the Wyatt Six versus Gable and the Creeds, but you also still have Otis involved, and is it just Bo Dallas versus Chad Gable one-on-one? Chad Gable has no shortage of potential opponents right now, but I am curious if they do add that to SummerSlam in the last minute for an 8th match on that card, or if they just hold off on that for another time. They replay Braun Breaker beating Ilya Dragunov by referee stoppage on Raw to earn the opportunity to challenge Sami Zayn in a rematch for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam. They preview Zayn and Breaker at the pay-per-view. They replay Sheamus attacking Pete Dunne and Bronson Reed on Raw. We hear from Bronson Reed afterward. Bronson Reed says that he constantly finds himself stuck in other people's quarries and problems, mentioning just a couple of months ago between Zayn and Chad Gable, he was stuck in that whole triangle over the Intercontinental Championship. He didn't mention this, but even a year ago, I think he was the one that initiated it, but he was also stuck in a triple threat feud with Ricochet and Shinsuke Nakamura. That never really felt like it actually ended or had a proper conclusion. But he's been involved in a lot of triple threat feuds because WWE probably doesn't really know what else to do with him right now, and that's disappointing because I think Reed is really good. But anyway, he says that Sheamus is the past, and Pete Dunne is also the future, a lot like him, but he is bigger and badder than Pete Dunne. The spotlight is only big enough for one guy. That's for Bronson Reed, and the future is all about him. They replay the Dominic, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan segment from Raw, the development there with Dominic telling off Liv, and then Rhea Ripley licking Dom. It was a pretty big segment. Sam Roberts praises Dominic, and it was funny to hear Megan, and Sam acknowledges this as well. Sam has been pro-Dom for a very long time now here on Raw Talk, and Megan has been poo-pooing the whole idea of Liv and Dom being in a relationship, and now she is against the idea that Dom would be dumping Liv after all that Liv has done for Dom. So I thought that was funny. And Roberts does not shut up about the whole Dom thing for the rest of the episode. They replay Zelina Vega beating Zoe Stark. We hear from Zelina Vega afterward backstage. She says this win does indeed solidify her as a threat. And she's been trending online for 5 days because everyone that is a fan of hers wants change as well. And she wants to prove those people right by continuing to win. They preview Lyra Valkyria, Katana Chance, and Kaden Carter in a 6-woman tag team match next week on Raw against Sonya Deville, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Stark. They replay the main event with Sami Zayn and Jey Uso knocking out the Judgment Day's JD McDonough and Finn Balor on Raw last night, in non-title action, of course, before Braun Breaker laid out Sami Zayn to close out the show. Sam Roberts even acknowledges while Sami Zayn was too busy aiding Jey Uso in his battles with the Judgment Day on this show, Braun Breaker's focus on the Intercontinental Championship never wavered, and that's why he laid him out to close out the show. They also hype up Gunther versus Finn Balor one-on-one for the first time ever, I think. I know they were supposed to have a match. Obviously, everyone knows a couple of years ago that NXT UK takeover in Dublin or in just Ireland, whatever, and it got canceled due to COVID, and they never went back to that. Balor, by the time that we kind of came back from COVID, Gunther was, still NXT UK champion, but at the very end of his run, and Balor was back on the main roster at that point, so we never did end up getting that match. Now, they're both heels, but hopefully they're given some time and have the match they're capable of. If it's not now, we may never get the match. But then again, though, Balor just recently resigned for 5 years, so he probably would have gotten it at some point, but I'm glad we're getting it at all. So they also, they preview that for next week, in addition to the referee instructions, where Punk will either give referee instructions or Adam Pearce will give him referee instructions for how to be a proper referee at the pay-per-view. It sounds lame, but we are getting all three guys on the show next week. Rollins, McIntyre, and Punk, I would assume all in one ring at the same time. And that's it from Raw Talk for July 22nd, 2024. Decent episode here as we heard from Zelina Vega, Bronson Reed, Karrion Kross. Perfectly fine episode, I thought, of Raw Talk for this week as we head into SummerSlam next weekend. So thank you guys for checking out this review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have an awesome one, folks. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.